All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh. Peace and blessing to the elect of Israel who are practicing the law of liberty. So today we're going to continue our Lost Book series. Today's reading, we're going to be reading out of the Testament of Judah. The Testament of Judah. First, I'd like to get a little background on the patriarch Judah. Judah means praise. He was the son of Jacob and Leah. The tribe of Judah is descended from Judah. Judah was also the name of the southern kingdom after Israel split after the death of Solomon. The southern kingdom was called Judah, and it was comprised of Judah and Benjamin. And it occupied the southern part of Canaan. This is after the nation split, after the death of Solomon. This is the blessing that Jacob or Israel gave to Judah when he was dying. He said, Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub from the prey. My son, you have gone up. He stopped down and crouches as a lion and as a lioness. Who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be obedience of peoples. Binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's coat to the choice vine. He has washed his garment in wine, and his vesture in blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. Okay, Yahweh also came from the tribe of Judah. The lineage leading to Yahweh goes through Judah. Jacob spoke prophecy and blessing Judah. So a little bit more about Judah. Judah, second to the youngest son, Judah was Jacob's favorite, second to the youngest son, Joseph. Judah and his brothers hated Joseph, though. This is kind of similar to the stories that we had with Levi and Simeon and Reuben. One day, the brothers threw Joseph in the cistern and conspired to kill him. The eldest sibling, Reuben, argued against this course of action, intending to rescue Joseph from the others. But while the brothers ate lunch and in Reuben's absence, a caravan approached, and Judah came up with a plan to sell Joseph to the caravan merchants as a slave. The brothers agreed, and Joseph was sold and taken to Egypt. Now, it is possible that Judah felt remorse or guilt for his actions, for at the time, Judah left his brothers and went down and stayed with a man of Adullam named Hiram. There, Judah married a Canaanite woman who gave Judah 3 sons, Onan, and Selah. When grew up, Judah gave him a wife named Tamar. But was an evil man, so the Lord put him to death. Following the customs of the Levites' marriage, Tamar was then given to Onan, who selfishly refused to give Tamar children. He also was put to death by the Lord for his actions. Selah was too young to take a wife, so Judah ordered Tamar to live as a widow in her father's house. After several years, Judah's own wife died, and he grieved. When he recovered, he traveled to Timnah to oversee to the shearing of his sheep. Tamar, still a widow, in spite of the fact that Selah had grown up, heard that her father-in-law was coming, and she devised a plan. Tamar put on a veil and pretended to be a prostitute on the road to Timnah. The veil hid her identity from Judah, and Judah slept with her. Tamar became pregnant, which had been her goal all along. 3 months later, when Judah found out that her his supposedly chastened daughter-in-law was pregnant, he was filled with rage. "Bring her out and have her burned to death," he demanded. As she was being brought out for punishment as a harlot, Tamar produced evidence that her pregnancy was due to Judah's own immorality. Judah saw his hypocrisy and repented and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Selah." Judah did not have sexual relations with Tamar after that. She later gave birth to 2 twin boys, Perez and Zerah. Meanwhile, power was with Judah's brother Joseph in Egypt, elevating Joseph to a place of power, second only to Pharaoh himself. Joseph had interpreted the king's dream, warning of 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of gathering grain to store up the lean years. Under Joseph's supervision, a large amount of grain was set aside. When the great famine came upon the land, it affected even Canaan. Judah and his brothers traveled from Canaan to Egypt to buy some of their surplus food. Joseph eventually revealed himself to his brother, who were remorseful for what they had done to him. Soon Joseph brought his entire family to the land of Egypt, where their descendants would live for several hundred years according to Pharaoh's plan for his people. This is where Jacob died, and before he passed, he called all his sons to bless them. And in spite of all Judah's fault, his blessings from Jacob were both rich and wonderful in that Jacob foretold that Judah's house would be the greatest, and the scepter or ruler would not depart from his descendants. Jacob's words held true. For many years later, Judah's line produced King David and his dynasty, and eventually through the line of Perez came the Messiah, Yahushua Mashiach, who was called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So now let's get into it. The Testament of Judah, chapter 1. Judah, the 4th son of Jacob and Leah. He is a giant, athlete, warrior. He recounts heroic deeds. He runs so fast that he can outstrip a hind. The copy of the words of Judah, what things he spake to his sons before he died. They gathered themselves together, therefore, and came to him. And he said to them, "Hearken, my children, to Judah your father. I was the 4th son born to my father Jacob and Leah. My mother named me Judah, saying, I give thanks to the Lord, because he had given me a 4th son also. I was swift in my youth, and obedient to my father in everything, and I honored my mother and my mother's sister. And it came to pass, when I became a man, that my father blessed me, saying, Thou shalt be a king, prospering in all things. And the Lord showed me favor in all my works, both in the field and in the house. I know that I raced a hind and caught it, and prepared the meat for my father, and he did eat. In the roes I used to master and chase and overtake all that was in the plains. A wild mare I overtook and caught it and tamed it. I slew a lion and plucked the kid out of his mouth. I took a bear by its paw and hurled it down the cliffs, and it was crushed. I outran the wild boar and seized it as I ran. I tore it asunder. A leopard in Hebron leaped upon my dog, and I caught it by the tail and hurled it on the rocks, and it was broken in twain. I found a wild ox feeding in the fields, and I seized by the horns and whirled it around and stunned it. I cast it from me and slew it. And when the 2 kings of the Canaanites came sheathed in armor against our flocks and much people with them, single-handedly I rushed upon the king of Hazor and smote him on the greaves and dragged him down, and so I slew him. And other kings of Tapah, as he sat upon his horse, I slew, and I scattered all his people. Anchor, the king, a man of giant stature, I found, hurling javelins before and behind as he sat on horseback. I took up a stone of 60 pounds weight, and I hurled it and smote his horse and killed it. And I found with this other for 2 hours, and I fought with the others for 2 hours, and I claved his shield in twain, and I chopped off his feet and killed him. And as I was stripping off his breastplate, behold, 9 men, his companions, began to fight with me. And I wound my garment on my hand, and I slung stones at them, and killed 4 of them, and the rest fled. And Jacob my father slew Beelrith, king of all kings, a giant in strength, and 12 cubits high. And fear fell upon them, and they ceased warring against us. Therefore my father was free from anxiety in the wars when I was with my brethren. For he saw in a vision concerning me that an angel of might followed me everywhere, that I should not be overcome. And in the south there came upon us a great war, that in Shechem, and I joined in battle array with my brother, and pursued 1,000 men, and slew of them 200 men and 4 kings. And I went up upon the wall and slew 4 mighty men. And so we captured Hazar and took all the spoils. And the next day we departed to Artran, a city strong and walled and inaccessible, threatening us with death. But I and power approached on the east side of the city, and Reuben and Levi on the west. And they that were upon the wall, thinking that we were alone, were drawn down against us. And so my brothers secretly climbed up the wall on both sides by stakes and entered the city, while the men knew it not. And we took it with the edge of the sword. And as for those who had taken refuge in the tower, we set fire to the tower and took both it and them. And as we were departing, the men of Tapar seized our spoils. And seeing this, we fought with them, and we slew them all and recovered our spoils. And when I was at the waters of Cosbah, the men of Jobel came against us to battle, and we fought with them and routed them and their allies. From Shiloh we slew, and we did not leave them power to come in against us. And the men of Machar came upon us the 5th day to seize our spoils, and we attacked them and overcame them in fierce battle. For these were a host of mighty men amongst them, and we slew them before they had gone up the ascent. And when we came to their city, their women rolled upon us stones from a brow of the hill on which the city stood. And I and Simeon had ourselves behind the town, and seized upon the heights, and destroyed this city also. And the next day it was told us that the king of the city of Goshen with a mighty host was coming against us. I therefore and Dan fringed ourselves to be Amorites, and as allies went into their city. And in the depth of the night our brethren came, and we opened to them the gates, and we destroyed all the men and their substance, and we took for a prey all that was theirs. And there's 3 walls we cast down, and we drew near to Thamnah, where was all the substance of the hostile kings. And being insulted by them, I was therefore wroth, and rushed against them to the summit. And they kept slinging against me stones and darts. And had not Dan my brother aided me, they would have slain me. We came upon them therefore with wrath, and they all fled and passed by another way. They fought my father, and he made peace with them. And we did to them no hurt, and they became tributaries to us, and we restored to them their spoil. And I built Thanah, and my father built Pabil. And I was 20 years old when this war befell, and the Canaanites feared me and my brothers. And I had much cattle, and I had for the chief herdsman Iram and Adullamite. And when I went to him, I saw Parshaba, king of Adullam, and he spake unto us, and he made us a feast. And when I was heated, he gave me his daughter Bashul to wife. She bare me and Onan and Selah, and two of them the Lord smote, for Selah lived, and his children are ye. Chapter 2. Judah describes some archaeology findings a city with walls of iron, gates of brass. He has encounters with an adventurous. In 18 years, my father abode in peace with his brother Esau and his sons with us. After that, we came from Mesopotamia from Laban. And when 18 years were fulfilled in the 40th year of my life, Esau, the brother of my father, came upon us with a mighty and strong people. And Jacob smote Esau with an arrow, and he was taken up wounded on Mount Seir. And as he died at Anoram. And we pursued after the sons of Esau. And now they had a city with walls of iron and gates of brass, and we could not enter into it. And we encamped around and besieged it. And when they opened not up to us in 20 days, I set up a ladder in the sight of all, and with my shield upon my head I went up, sustaining the assault of stones, upwards of 3 talents weight, and I slew 4 of their mighty men. And Reuben and Gad slew 6 others. Then they asked from us terms of peace, and having taken counsel with our father, we received them as tributaries. And they gave us 500 cords of wheat, 500 baths of oil, 500 measures of wine, into the famine when we went down into Egypt. And after these things, my son took to wife Tamar from Mesopotamia, a daughter of Aram. Now was wicked, and he was in need concerning Tamar, because she was not of the land of Canaan. And on the 3rd night, an angel of the Lord smote him, and he had not known her according to the evil craftiness of his mother, for she did not wish to have children. Because she did not wish for him to have children by her. In the days of the wedding feast, I gave Onan to her in marriage, and he also in wickedness knew not her for a whole year. And when I threatened him, he went into her, but he spilt his seed on the ground, or according to the commandment of his mother. And he also died through wickedness. And I wished to give Selah also to her, but his mother did not permit it, for she wrought evil against Tamar, because she was not the daughters of Canaan, and she also was. And I knew that the race of the Canaanites were wicked, but the impulse of youth blinded my mind. And when I saw her pouring out wine, owning to the intoxication of wine, I was deceived and took her, although my father had not counseled it. And while I was away, she went and took for Selah a wife from Canaan. And when I knew what she had done, I cursed her in anguish of my soul. And she also died through her wickedness, together with her sons. And after these things, while Tamar was a widow, she heard after 2 years that I was going up to shear my sheep, and adored herself in a bridal array, and sat in the city of Enam by the gate. For it was a law of the Amorites that she who was about to marry should sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. Therefore, being drunk with wine, I did not recognize her, and her beauty deceived me through the fashion of her adorning. And I turned aside to her and said, Let me go in unto thee. And she said, What wilt thou give me? And I gave her my staff and my girdle and the diadem of my kingdom in pledge. And I went in unto her, and she conceived. And not knowing what I had done, I wished to slay her, but she privately sent my pledges and put me to shame. And when I called her, I heard also the secret words which I spake when lying with her in my drunkenness. And I could not slay her, because it was from the Lord. For I said, Least haply she did it in subtlety, having received a pledge from another woman. But I came not again near her while I lived, because I had done this abomination in all Israel. Moreover, they who were in the city said, there was no harlot at the gate, because she came from another place and sat for a while in the gate. And I thought that no one knew that I had gone into her. And after this, we came into Egypt to Joseph because of the famine. And I was 46 years old, and 73 years lived I in Egypt. Chapter 3. And now I command you, my children, hearken to Judah your father, and keep my sayings to perform all the ordinance of the Lord, and to obey the commandments of power, and walk not after your lusts, nor in the imaginations of your thoughts and haughtiness of heart, and glory not in the deeds and strength of your youth, for this also is evil in the eyes of the Lord. Since I also glory that in wars no comely woman's face ever enticed me, and reproved Reuben my brother concerning Baal, the wife of my father. The spirit of jealousy and of fornication arrayed themselves against me, until I lay with Bashul the Canaanite, and Tamar, who was a spouse to my sons. For I said to my father-in-law, I will take counsel with my father, and so will I take thy daughter. And he was unwilling, but he showed me a boundless stone of gold in his daughter's behalf, for was he a king. And he adored her with gold and pearls, and caused her to pour out wine for us at the feast with the beauty of women. And the wine turned aside my eyes, and pleasure blind my heart. And I became enamored of, and I laid with her, and transgressed the commandments of the Lord, and the commandments of my fathers. And I took her to wife. And the Lord rewarded me according to the imagination of my heart, and insomuch as I had no joy in her children. And now, my children, I say unto you, be not drunk with wine, for wine turneth the mind away from the truth, and inspires the passion of lust, and leadeth the eyes into error. For the spirit of fornication hath wine as a minister to give pleasure to the mind, for these two also take away the mind of men. For if a man drink wine to drunkenness, it disturbs the mind with filthy thoughts, and leadeth to fornication, and heateth the body to carnal union. And if the occasion of the lust be present, he worketh the sin, and is not ashamed. Such is the inebriated man, my children, for he who is drunkard reverence no man. For lo, it made me also to err, so that I was not ashamed of the multitude in the city, and that before the eyes of all I turned aside unto Tamar, and I wrought a great sin, and I uncovered the covering of my son's shame. After I had drunk wine, I reverenced not the commandments of power, and I took a woman of Canaan to wife. For much discretion needed the man who drinketh wine, my children, and hearken is also discretion in drinking wine. A man may drink so long as he preserveth modesty. But if he go beyond this limit, the spirit of deceit attacketh his mind, and it maketh the drunkard to talk filthy, and to transgress, and to not be ashamed, but even to glory in the shame, and to account himself honorable. He that committed fornication is not aware when he suffers loss, and is not ashamed when he put to dishonor. For even through a man be a king and commit fornication, he is stripped of his kingship by becoming the slave of fornication, as myself also suffered. For I gave my staff, that is the stay of my tribe, and my girdle, that is my power, and my diadem, that is the glory of my kingdom. And indeed I repented of these things. Wine and flesh I eat not until my old age, nor did I behold any joy. And the anger of power showed me that, for even do women bear rule over king and beggars alike. And from the king they take away his glory, and from the violent man his might, and from the beggar even little which he is stayed of his poverty. Observe therefore, my children, the right limit in wine, For there are in it four evil spirits of lust, of hot desire, of profligacy, and of filthy lucre. If you drink wine in gladness, be ye modest in the fear of power. For if in your gladness the fear of power departed, then drunkenness arises, and shamefulness stealeth in. But if ye would live soberly, do not touch wine at all, lest ye sin in words of outrage, and in fighting, and in slanders, and in transgressions of the commandments of power, and ye perish before your time. Moreover, wine reveleth the mysteries of power and man, even as I also revealed the commandments of power and the mysteries of Jacob my father to the Canaanitish woman Bathsheba, which God bade me not to reveal. And wine is a cause both of war and confusion. And now I command you, my children, not to love money, not to gaze upon the beauty of a woman, because for the sake of money and beauty I was led astray by Bathsheba the Canaanite. For I know that because of these two things shall my race fall into wickedness. And forever wise men among my sons shall they mar, and shall cause the kingdom of Judah to be diminished, which the Lord gave me because of my obedience to my father. For I have never caused grief to Jacob my father, for all the things whatsoever he commanded I did. And Isaac, the father of my father, blessed me to be king in Israel, and Jacob further blessed me in a like manner. I know that from me shall the kingdom be established, and I know what evils ye will do in the last days. Beware therefore, my children, of fornication and the love of money, and hearken to Judah your father, for these things withdraw in from the law of God, and bind the inclinations of the soul, and teach arrogance, and suffer not a man to have compassion upon his neighbors. They rob his soul of all goodness, and oppress him with toils and troubles, and drive away sleep from him, and devour the flesh. He hinders the sacrifice of God, and he remembers not the blessing of God. He hearkens not to the prophets when he speaketh, and he resenteth the word of godliness. For he is a slave to two contrary passions, and cannot obey power, because they have binded his soul, and he walketh in the day and in the night. My children, the love of money leadeth to idolatry, because when led astray through money, men name as gods those who are not gods, and it causes him who hath it to fall into madness. For the sake of money I lost my children, and had not my repentance and my humiliation and the prayers of my father been accepted, I should have died childless. But the power of my father had mercy on me, because I did it in ignorance. And the prince of deceit blinded me, and I sinned as a man, and as the flesh being corrupted through sin, I learnt my own weakness, while thinking myself invincible. Know therefore, my children, that two spirits wait upon men, the spirit of truth and the spirit of deceit. And in the midst is the spirit of understanding of mind, to which is belongeth to turn, whithersoever it will. And the works of truth and the works of deceit are written upon the hearts of men, and each one of them the Lord knoweth. And there is no time at which the works of man can be hid, for on the hearts itself have they been written down before the Lord. And in the spirit of truth testified all things, and accursed all, and the sin is burnt up by his own heart, and cannot raise his face to the judge. Chapter 4, Judah. And now, my children, I command you, love Levi, that ye may abide, and exalt not yourselves against him, lest ye be utterly destroyed. For to me the Lord gave the kingdom, and to him the priesthood, and he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood. To him he gave the things upon the earth, to him things in heaven. And the heavens is higher than the earth, so is the priesthood of power higher than the earthly kingdom, unless it falls away through sin from the Lord, and is dominated by the earthly kingdom. For the angel of the Lord said unto me, the Lord chose him rather than thee to draw near to him, and to eat of his table, and to offer him the first fruits of choice things of the sons of Israel. But thou shalt be king of Jacob, and thou shalt be amongst them as the sea. For as on the sea, the just and the unjust are tossed about, some taken into captivity, while some are enriched. So also shall every race of man be in thee. Some shall be impoverished, being taken captive, and others grow rich by plundering the possessions of others. For the king shall be as the sea monsters. They shall swallow men like fishes. The sons and daughters of freemen shall they enslave. Houses, lands, flocks, money shall they plunder. And with the flesh of many shall they wrongfully feed the ravens and the cranes. And they shall advance in evil and covetousness, uplifting. And there shall be false prophets like tempters, and they shall persecute all righteous men. And the Lord shall bring upon them divisions one against another. And there shall be continual wars in Israel among men of another race shall my kingdom be brought to an end, until the salvation of Israel shall come, until the appearance of the power of righteousness, that Jacob and all the Gentiles may rest in peace. And he shall guard the might of my kingdom forever. For the Lord aware to me with an oath that he would not destroy the kingdom from my seed forever. Now I have much grief, my children, because of your lewdness and witchcrafts and idolatry, which ye shall practice against the kingdom, following them that have familiar spirits, diviners, and demons of error. Ye shall make your daughters singing girls and harlots, and ye shall mingle in the abomination of the Gentiles, for which things sake the Lord shall bring upon you famine and pestilence, death and sword, and beleaguering of enemies, and reveling of friends, the slaughter of children, the rape of wives, the plundering of possessions, the burning of the temple of power, the laying waste of the land, the enslavement of yourselves among the Gentiles. And they shall make some of you eunuchs for their wives, until the Lord visits you, when with perfect heart ye repent and walk in all his commandments, and he bring you up from captivity from among the Gentiles. And after these things shall a star rise to you from Jacob in peace, and a man shall rise from my seed, like the Son of righteousness, walking with the sons of men in meekness and righteousness, and no sin shall be found in him. And the heavens shall be opened unto him to pour out the Spirit, even the blessings of the Holy Father. And he shall pour out the Spirit of the grace upon you. And ye shall be unto men son in truth, and ye shall walk in his commandments, first and last. Then shall the scepter of my kingdom shine forth, and from your root shall arise a stem, and from it shall grow a rod of righteousness to the Gentiles, to judge and to save all that call upon the Lord. And after these things shall Abraham and Isaac and Jacob arise up unto life, and I and my brethren shall be chiefs of the tribes of Israel. Levi first, I the second, Joseph the third, Benjamin the fourth, Simeon the fifth, Issachar the sixth, and so and all in order. And the Lord blesses Levi, and the angels of the presence me, and the powers of glory Simeon, and the heavens Reuben, the earth Issachar, the sea Zebulun, the mountains Joseph, the tabernacle Benjamin, the luminaries Dan, Eden Naphtali, the sun Gad, the moon Asher. And ye shall be the people of the Lord, and one tongue, and there should be there no spirit of deceit of Belair, for he shall be cast into the fire forever. And they who have died in grief shall rise in joy, and they who were poor for the Lord's sake shall be made rich, and they who are put to death, for the Lord's sake shall awake to life. And the hearts of Jacob shall run in joyfulness. And the hearts of Jacob shall run in joyfulness, and the eagles of Israel shall fly in gladness, and all the people shall glorify the Lord forever. Observe, therefore, my children, all the law of the Lord, for there in hope for all them who hold fast unto his ways. And he said to them, Behold, I die before your eyes this day, 119 years old. Let no one bury me in costly apparel, nor tear open my bowels, for this shall they who are kings do, and carry me up to Hebron with you. And Judah, when he had said these things, fell asleep, and his sons did according to all whatsoever he commanded them, and they buried him in Hebron with his fathers. So I hope this reading was a blessing to you. I know it's a little long, but we got through it. May you listen to this a couple of times, meditate on it, and may the Lord bless you.